Welcome, everybody, to another grassroots economic organizing interview. I'm super excited today to be joined by three of the members from People's Plumbing in Cleveland, Ohio. And they have a very unique model that they run on, and I will let them explain that. So let's maybe start out with just some quick introductions. Maybe just say, how long you've been working at the co-op, and then we'll get into a little bit of the backstory. So, Cristobal, do you want to start?
Yeah, thank you. I co-founded it with Emma, who's no longer in the company because she moved to Denver, among other things, in kind of like October of 23. But we really kind of like launched in March of 24.
Great. And Wren, how long have you been with the co-op?
I've been with the co-op since July of 2025, so like 9-ish months now.
And I know, I guess, from reading about you guys that Cristobal, you were already a plumber. Wren, what were you doing before you got involved with People's Plumbing?
I was a delivery driver. I kind of had some temp jobs before that. I didn't know a ton about plumbing before I started, and I learned from Cristobal.
Great. All right. Dayle?
Hey, I've been with People's Plumbing since October 2024. Um,
And what were you doing before?
Before, I was the assistant manager at an arcade.
Okay, so did you have any plumbing experience at
No,
all?
I had no plumbing experience. When I joined, I basically kind of learned as I went, and Cristobal would teach me various techniques and safety learnings and stuff like that.
Nice. Yeah, so, okay, well, Cristobal, why don't you just tell us a little bit about how People's Plumbing got started, why you and Emma decided to start this company, and why you decided to use a pay what you can model.
We'll get to why it's not pay what you can.
Okay.
So Emma and I both moved to Cleveland for a political project. It was a 1-year contract, and um, I had been a plumber in California previously. Uh, I had a license there from 2007 until the teens, somewhere in the late teens, and then in that 1-year contract was going to be up at at the end of October or something. And during that time, we got a message in a community chat about a friend who was just wanted shared rage. They weren't asking for anything at a really huge bill, like a 17,000+ bill for a plumbing issue. So they didn't know I was a plumber. So I wrote to them and I said, because I've been doing more political work for a few years. And I said, "Hey, I used to do plumbing. Will you please let me come and take a look?" And I went, and it was like a 4 foot square spot repair. And I was like, that is a ridiculously overcharge of this job. And I said, "Will you please just let me take care of this for you?" It's partially because they're a friend, but more just because they're a person in the community who I know does a lot for the community and doesn't have a lot of money. And so, in the process of doing that, the job was much worse than they thought or than they had been told. Like a lot more needed to be replaced. Uh, and in the process of that, I was like, this is a skill that I have. There's a need for it in the community. I should start doing that. That 1-year contract was coming up. And I said, well, I also need some kind of work for myself. And we decided, because running water and working sewer are human rights. Working sewer saves more lives than modern medicine. Like, so like the fact that you flush a toilet and your poo goes away, that literally saves more lives than any medicine. Um, and people are denied these things because they don't have money. And so we said we're going to offer this, and the way we're going to offer it is on a gift basis. But within a year, that shifted to what we're offering is gift economics. And the way that we're offering gift economics is by offering plumbing, electrical, and other types of repair work. And the distinction there is, I think, one of hope. There's a lot of people who don't like our economic system, but I don't really see many concrete ways or alternatives. And so we wanted to offer a concrete alternative. And why it's not pay what you can, because pay what you can is like, I'm expecting you to pay, but I'm not setting a specific price. You can pay whatever you like. And in gift economics, what we're expecting is for people to consider community and reciprocity. And that reciprocity could be linear, could be like from me to them and back from them to me, but it could also be circular. It could be that we give to them, that they give to someone else in the community or to the community more broadly. And it could also be that they don't need to contribute at all, that people deserve to have their needs met no matter what. Like, just because they exist, they deserve to have their needs met. And that goes more into the unconditional love. And I will just keep talking, so I'm going to stop talking now.
Great. Thank you for the explanation. I'm going to go to Wren now. So we got a little bit about like how it got started. It sounded like, Cristobal, you saw a need and you decided to fill it. But Wren and Dayle, how did you guys get involved in the co-op? Wren, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I met Cristobal and kind of like talked with Cristobal about People's Plumbing and what was happening with People's Plumbing at actually the wedding of the person who was the initial sewer repair job. We were both in the wedding party. I was a ring bearer, so that's where I first kind of like talked with Cristobal about People's Plumbing and learned more about it. And I was like, this is really awesome and like something that I'd like to be a part of. And so when I found myself without a job later that year, I reached out to Cristobal. I was like, hey, could I help out? And yeah, I've learned a bunch about plumbing. I've also learned a bit about like administrative work and bookkeeping recently as well, just kind of filling in where things are needed. And yeah, it's been really rewarding. Dayle?
I joined up because I had originally at the time I didn't live in Cleveland. And so I had met Cristobal a few times before when I came to visit my girlfriend. And so we like knew each other, we were acquainted. And then when I officially moved here, I think a couple months after I moved here, um, it basically kind of lined up where I needed a job and Cristobal was looking for more help with People's Plumbing. And so he had given me this little interview to kind of tell me what the job was about. And I told him that I didn't have any experience or anything like that. And he was like, that's okay. We can teach you. Um, yeah. And so at the time, I just kind of I needed a job and he needed the help. So I feel like it lined up. But then as it went on, started to get like valuable experience with just the plumbing trade work in general. Um, and that made me really excited because I started to, as I was learning things, I started to be able to go home and look at things and be like, oh, that's what this is, or this is how you can repair this. And so, yeah, so it was kind of like circumstance, but it ended up working out really nicely.
Nice. Let's see if I can get us all back in one thing. How do we do that? There we go. Um, okay, so I so we've got a plumbing co-op. How many members are there now? Is it the three of you, or are there more people?
Well, if you define member as like a member owner,
Mhm.
then that is Wren and myself. When we started, I when Emma and I started, I had the idea based on another local co-op that to become an owner would require 3,000 hours and $3,000, but which neither Dayle or Wren had. But I did not want to be the single owner. And so last year, I think around October, but maybe September, maybe October, I don't know. I offered to both Dayle and Wren if they would like to be co-owners with me. And Dayle did not want to at the time, and Wren did. Um, and so I don't know if you immediately did, but we did that transition this year.
Yeah. Okay. And then are there other people working besides the three of you, or are you three kind of are you the business? The three of you?
We have Martin, who's been around for a few months, and who is. I knew at the time of asking him if he'd like to come work with us that he would want to leave because he's a software developer, and he just
Oh,
hadn't gotten work. But I thought he could be helpful for a while, and he got another job, so he's going to be leaving us. Um,
good.
and we also have Damiana, who is our anti-authoritarian organizer. And I was actually just thinking a few minutes ago, we should have invited her to this interview as well.
Mm.
But part of we were doing well enough financially and it's in our values to try to make the world a better place. And I have some experience in movement building, and so I hired Damiana to help with the research for a new platform that will not be people's plumbing, but something to help us challenge the rising authoritarianism and offer a hopeful vision for the future.
Yeah. Um, cool. So, I mean, one thing when you listening to you talk about the business that stands out to me is like, oh, you're doing on-the-job training, something that used to be standard. I remember back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I'd be looking for jobs, going through the paper, and it was always on-the-job training, on-the-job training. Then at some point they stopped out. Nobody does that anymore. So, I mean, kudos to you for passing on a trade to people. As a former house painter, I appreciate the trades a lot, and that people who are willing to train up other people to do that, definitely very needed. So, in talking to folks, okay, so this morning there's a coffee group that I go and have coffee with a bunch of the old timers in town every morning at 6:45. We all get together at a little cafe, and I was telling them about, oh, this is what I'm going to do today. I get to interview some really cool business I'm excited about, and I told them that I said pay is what you can, but people were skeptical, of course, or at least a couple people that could possibly work at all, and that you could actually make a living without billing people, for the work that you do. So, can you just maybe describe a little bit more like the process? Somebody calls you, they have a plumbing issue, you go over, and then how does that work from there? Anybody?
I can take this one on, I guess, because I am the one that does most of the sending out of our participation forms. But basically, when we go to someone's place, we talk with them about our model of gift economics. We have a zine about the company that we show them. And if you want, I can put that in the chat, and just kind of talk about what it means, that it's a gift and kind of what that means, and that if they'd like to contribute back to us to support us, they're welcome to, or to, gift it forward into the community somehow. And then after we go, transparency is a very big part of our model and of gift economics. So we're transparent about our needs, in addition to people being transparent about their plumbing needs with us. And then in the spirit of transparency, after we go to someone's place, we'll send them a participation form instead of calling it an invoice. And it just lists like, this is what we did. This is how long we were there. If you'd like to make a contribution to us, this is how you can, but it's not expected. And yeah, some people don't contribute back to us. Some people gift it forward into the community or just don't have the capacity to. Some people gift us way, like I would say a lot, and it just kind of balances out. Yeah, we've been able to expand as a company and get new vehicle recently, and like we are like growing, so it's really cool.
So Cristobal, from your previous experience in plumbing, do you think that you're like on average making about as much as you would in like a normal plumbing, type of a situation, or do you think you're making less or more, or how do you feel about that? What do you think?
So I had a company in California, Clean Rooter and Plumbing, and when I started it, I probably was charging like $150 an hour, and then around by 2017, I was charging like $180 an hour. My understanding is market rate now is around $250 an hour locally in Cleveland, and the thing is most businesses fail. Co-ops have a much higher rate of success than other businesses, but gift economics is interesting, and it's really hard to internalize. I think a lot of the work is not just saying, like articulating, this is a gift, but then there's also like truly being happy with giving that gift, even if someone doesn't give back to us. If it was only good if someone gave back to us, it wouldn't actually be a gift. But so like online workshops is a space where I've seen multiple groups that I know of that do trainings online, where they would somewhere between 2 and multiply their income, but between 2 and 10 times by shifting from a sliding scale to a gift-based system. They would greatly multiply their income, their revenue. And a lot of that was due to a large increase of who would join. And some of those people would not contribute at all, but some of them would contribute a lot more. And here, transparency is really key to sharing like what the needs of the facilitators are in order to like, and people can be like, and so I've been in workshops that were like multiple month workshops, meeting once a week for multiple months. And some people will contribute 4 or 5 times, and other people will contribute once and maybe only a few dollars. And some people won't contribute at all. And I've also done workshops where we actually gift to participants sometimes as facilitators, because I don't take it for granted as a trainer that just because I'm the one doing the training doesn't mean that I'm the one who should be getting paid. So I've paid people that I've trained in order to come to trainings as well, because I think that like when you enter a situation and you think of it as everyone is in community together and collectively all of us together are going to work to meet our needs. And if we can all be transparent about what our needs are for the situation, then we can all come together and help meet those needs. So that's not really what you're asking, and I will get to your question, but
no, well, that's good. I mean, because you're reframing, and I was going to say, I mean, this is, even though I'm somebody who's talked about, man, we need to have a economy should be based on filling needs and not profit. It's so hard to get out of that mentality. And like I said, even, it's a question I had, but it's a question everybody has, like, oh, how does this work in practice, and but I appreciate the reframing. I'll say that. I think it's necessary. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I think so. For new businesses, one of the most difficult things is building a clientele. And so when I started as doing plumbing work, I already had like 3 customers that, in California. So 2008. And I was making just a lot of money just from those 3 commercial clients. And then in the summer of 2008, you might remember there was like a pretty deep recession. And one of those customers went out of business, and the other 2 made huge cutbacks. And so my income just really dried up quite a bit. And then I had to find new clientele. And that was just really difficult. I ended up moving back in with my mom. And but eventually, things panned out to where I could hire my cousin and build up a customer base again. So doing things on a gift basis, if you can get in touch with some of the right people, is something that's very exciting to a lot of people. So when we first, not when we started the company, we were helping one person, and then we were doing paperwork, thinking about bylaws, thinking about how we want to interact with each other. We took a class on how to operate a co-op called Co-op U.
So you did things correctly. You did things in the right order. I mean, you did the job first, but then you actually sat down and thought about, how do we want to do conflict resolution and all this stuff before you jumped in. Good on you.
Yeah.
Almost nobody does that. We all say that. I've been involved with worker co-ops that I helped start, and it was like, you guys need to do this first before you start doing your stuff. And did they? No. And are they still around? No. Okay. Anyway, good on you for doing the things in the right order.
Yeah. Although I will admit that we really have not finished our bylaws by any means. We've barely started, actually, still, because I think we're kind of starting anew. But we do talk about conflict, and we do talk about how to support each other and what people need to feel supported. But now we're skewing away from the question of having a successful business on a gift model. And when I went to a community meeting in March of 2024, and I sent one email to a listserv, and that got us quite a bit of business. I wasn't even a part of the official program, but some friends of mine that were facilitating were like, you should say something. So I said something for 2 minutes on what People's Plumbing was towards the end of this meeting. And then at the end of the meeting, there was a line of people waiting to talk to me about it, including one person who ended up being a huge supporter of ours, walked up to me and said, "Do you know how to fix a boiler?" And I said, "No." And she said, "You'll learn." And so we fixed that boiler so many times. And I heard about people would contact us and say, "Where'd you hear about us?" And they heard about it from some group of people that I'd never heard of, where someone spoke about us kind of spontaneously, that I'd never heard of that person. So people I've never heard of are talking about us in meetings that I'd never heard of. And so people are just excited about us. And so doing things on a gift basis can help in that way. It does help. I feel so one of the things we have to balance is because we do need a living wage for ourselves. We do need to pay rent. So you have to balance people who have the capacity to pay and people who don't. Because if we're not serving any of the people who don't have the capacity to pay, then we're not really fulfilling our mission of helping people. We might still be fulfilling the mission of spreading gift economics. But to me, if you're going to talk about any major economic reform and you're not centering poor people at it, I feel like you're failing. There's a lot of economic reforms that just ignore poor people. And I think, there's a lot of emphasis on workers or working class and things like that. And then obviously there's a lot of focus on billionaires and some on millionaires. But the people at the bottom, most people just kind of ignore their needs or ignore how they might be able to contribute. And so, so to me, it's like both. But if we're only doing that, because we're not a nonprofit, we haven't gotten any grants. If we only help poor people who can't afford to pay much, then we would not be where we are. We would not have been able to purchase a vehicle, let alone two. We would not have been able to purchase the equipment we have, wouldn't have been able to hire people. And so, yeah, I would say to go from 2024 of Emma and I later in 2024 hiring Dayle towards the end, like that was October, right, Dayle? And then 2025 hire 3 more people. And even before Martin was leaving, we were talking about hiring another person. So I think that's pretty fast growth.
Yeah, that sounds great. It's really impressive. Just I guess given the givens that you're just starting out with one job and kind of talking to a small group of people, but I suppose it's not too surprising that when not only are you offering plumbing services, but in the particular model that you have a whole lot of people lining up for that service. It's great free advertising, I would think. And like I said, when I mentioned to Gio that we were going to be doing this interview, immediately one of our members in New York was like, "Send them out to me. I need somebody." So I think everybody needs plumbers, as you know. So, yeah, all right, Dayle, I'm sorry, Dayle. We have not heard from you, so I want to ask you. We've heard about the differences, pretty extreme differences in how you guys operate compared to other most businesses. So, Dayle, as the new guy, as the newest guy, how has your experience been as compared to other jobs that you've worked? Like, how does this rate? Like, what are some of the? Are there any differences? Does it feel the same? Does it feel different? What do you think?
No. Well, it feels very different. With like the actual work is very, very different. But on the other hand, too, it feels different, as in like I more directly contribute to like people's quality of life. And so like being a plumber, it's like a lot of stuff is, I guess I can't say a lot, but there's some things that are definitely more like emergencies than other, like when people don't have hot water. But there's also like quality of life tough stuff too, which is just like, oh, my shower stopped working. And so I feel differently about the work because before it was kind of I would say maybe like a more standard, like behind the counter, telling people like these are our deals, these are our prices, and there's sort of like no negotiation with that, and it kind of is what it is. But with people's plumbing, I do feel like there's more leeway for various types of people to come in. Like Cristobal said, there are those who like can't pay, and we help them with just as much like um, energy and drive as we would someone who pays. But like in this job, I'm able to help those people as well as just like general people, and so it feels very good to me because I get to come home at the end of the day having helped somebody or tried to contribute to like an improvement in their quality of life. Yeah, and it also feels good because I bring home knowledge as well, which feels good because I can always like I get the experience at work and then I can bring home the knowledge so that when something happens like in my own house, um, I live with a couple other people that like I'm able to take a look at it if something starts leaking or if something needs to be replaced. Um, and that's like a lot of peace of mind too, that I can share that knowledge and like bring it home. Um, yeah, so like overall, it feels a lot better because I bring more home, but also feel like I'm giving more out and am much more of an active member of like the Cleveland area community rather than like going to the same place every day. Um, yeah.
I should unmute my mic before I start talking. So it's obviously been successful for you guys so far. I don't think we quite got to the specific answer to my question, but I think with the answer is we don't really need a specific answer. Your guys' needs are being met in terms of your needs for pay. Um, and you're able to purchase vehicles for the business. So obviously you've got plenty of revenue coming in, and so this gift model has not hindered you in any way. Is that safe to say that in your business you don't that like this gift model, has it caused you any problems yet or not?
I think that the things that have hindered us have been more like the things that hindered me in my last company, which was that like I've been really bad at keeping track of paperwork and such. So as Wren shared, like we do this transparency report of a participation form because we're asking people to participate in gift economy. And yeah, I've struggled with that, and Dale's also struggled with that. So Wren has been a huge help at helping us to like really meet that need. But in terms of the fact that we're gift based as opposed to like charging a fee, I can't think of any real negative. So like one thing is that we do turn down business because we don't work for like major corporations, and it doesn't have to be a major corporation. It just has to be like a corporation that is not community driven. So like we won't accept money from someone that if we didn't want them to use us to like whitewash their name. So like if Target was going to be like, oh, we want to give you a contract for our Cleveland stores for whatever, I don't want Target to be able to say we support community and as evidence should show that they give us money or whatever. It's just like I don't want them to be able to do that because I think they're pretty evil. And so we only work with like small businesses, nonprofits, homeowners, things like that. And so other maintenance companies that are like maybe national or chain stores I work with.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's a good thing. You haven't felt the need to let your ethics slide at all, even for to pick up some extra work. So that sounds good. I will say it's great. And one thing that I hear you talking about that I have not heard many other people talk about is the conundrum. And we faced this when I was painting houses and to a certain extent still, that it feels like, at least in the normal business world and even in the normal worker co-op world, that a lot of times you kind of end up having to only work for rich people or largely work for the well-off because they're the people who have the money to pay. And that has always bugged me a lot. And so, when I do handyman jobs for people around town, I work on a sliding scale, and I will definitely work for free for people, depending on what the job is. And I've never actually told anybody a rate, and I've never had to worry about, what I got. So it's nice to be able to do that, and it's great to hear that this model allows that to happen, like that that you can work for people who otherwise you wouldn't be able to, because that it feels bad to only be putting your skills and your effort towards the people who already have the most. At least I found it felt bad. So love that.
I think some of the things we were chatting about before the call.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I almost wanted to push record, and I didn't, but maybe I should have. What were we talking about?
About the nature of a gift and how you can tell if something is a real gift if you can't tell who the giver is and who's the recipient. So like in a hug, you don't know who's the giver and who's the recipient. Or like if you see a small child or any adult who's like in touch with their joy, like feeding animals, and the animals are happy, but the person feeding them is probably like often more happy than those animals. And like, so to give the gift of clean water or working toilet, to give the gift of working heat in a home, and to truly be happy with that, because I was raised in this very dominant system of capitalism and of like, you need to make sure you get your needs met. You need to like excel and dominate other people so that you can do better than them, so that this and that. And so there was a lot of internal work that I had to do for myself, over many years, and still work on. And I think it's like there's articulation in the theory of it, but that doesn't mean we always embody it. And so we try hard to always embody it to the best of our abilities, the gift. And then other questions you could ask would be, well, actually, first let me finish that thought, which was that, yeah, so when we do something for someone, the gift is that their home is better off, and we are happy with that. And what we are asking for is for them to think about reciprocity and community. And if they don't give us any money at all, we're happy. And I think that's where it has to be. Now, if it ended up being, and we don't have to pay attention, or at least I don't, to any specific individual who does or does not contribute, and because it truly doesn't matter. As long as enough people are contributing enough that our needs are met, then we don't really care how much any particular person contributes. And that's how I think it should be. Other questions, I think you could dig more into unconditional love, or you could ask more about the research Damiana's doing.
Yeah, it's funny because the question I had in my mind, and it was maybe more for Wren, it seems like she's doing more of the bookkeeping, and is totally not in the unconditional love sort of vein. Is this having any tax implications for you guys? Wren, do you know of? I mean, does this change how that works? And then we'll get to unconditional love after taxes. And I don't know. Maybe the answer is I don't. You don't know either. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not a tax expert for sure, but our company is structured as like an LLC that's taxed, as a co-op, so subchapter T and all, whatever the thing is. But we still do pay taxes, and yeah, we're not a nonprofit, so we pay taxes on parts we buy. We pay, our yearly taxes,
right?
Same as any other company.
All right, yeah. It's just always a question I have, I guess. So, unconditional love. That's that's a big topic, Cristobal, for a plumbing company. It's but I guess I'll come at it this direction. Like I live in a very small town, 500 people, 600 people, something like that. Literally, pretty much everybody, you kind of know who people are. Um, and I said, like to do work for people, but sometimes there are people who are a little bit hard. It's hard to have unconditional love sometimes. Not every, people say some wild stuff while you're over there working for them. Maybe that have you. I don't know. How do you deal with that? It's Cristobal. You brought it up, so I'm going to put you on the spot. How do you incorporate unconditional love into a business like this?
So not any of us might always feel comfortable in any specific person's home, but we all feel that every person deserves to have their needs met. So it could be the case that one of us is not comfortable working in a particular home, and so another person would go. Um, and and that is a real thing. Like harassment is real, and people saying horrific things is real. I don't think it's happened very much at all um, in our couple years, um, but I think that like the other thing is that like so unconditional love is a part of really every major religion, and just like it's something. So there's a philosophical way of knowing if something is true, like capital T true, and that's if like multiple people, like not individuals but groups of people, are like coming to a realization like far away from each other at the same time or around the same time. And unconditional love is one of those things that spans like all over the world, like all peoples. This is like a fundamental tenet that of course they say it differently in different religions and different cultures, but that for us it's like everyone deserves to have their needs met, and it does not matter what they've said, and it does not matter what they've done. That doesn't mean they get to keep doing whatever they're doing if they're doing something harmful. It doesn't mean we have to support, like I said, like we don't have to support businesses that we don't think should exist. But I think as community, we should be thinking and deciding what businesses can and can't exist. And I think we should not be deciding which people can and can't exist. Like all people deserve to be able to do their best to exist, and but not all businesses. Um, and so it's really saying like you deserve to have your needs met no matter what. Um, and if we could dig back into that, and I say back into that because I do think it was a part of culture all around the world at some point. And the other thing about gift economics is it's actually very old. It's actually the first real form of economics. And a lot of people talk about bartering, but bartering, and we're going to write more about this relatively soon, but when a lot of people thought bartering was happening, it was not bartering, it was gift based. People were not waiting for the magic contribution, magic combination of I want this, you have it, you want what I have, we'll barter. That was not what was happening. Like what was happening is you want this, I have it, I can spare some, I'm going to give it to you. Or we're all going to like share in our resources. And that is what happened all around the world. It is what's still happening in some pockets of the world. I know in Latin America, my guess would be other parts of the world. And there's like, some people like to point at Burning Man as like a microcosm of it. I don't really feel that way because I think you have to pay a lot to get in. And I also think that there's like an out of touchness with nature of these fires. But I'm welcome to, I'm welcome. I welcome challenges on that. Um, but I think that like, and again, and part of that for me is talking about an economic system and leaving the poor out of it. So we're going to talk about gift economics, and I've seen a lot of gift-based systems as examples that leave poor people out of the conversation.
Mm.
And so I do think, um, yeah, that unconditional love is one of the major solutions to the problems of the world. I guess
Nope.
also that like we are very far from the first, even now. And we're the only way in which we're pioneers is that we're using this to make a living for ourselves, because there are mutual aid groups all over the country, all over the world, that are doing things that I would say is on a gift basis. Like they are doing that work of gift-based work.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just not, they might not be calling it gift economics, and they're not making a living for themselves. And I think that's the thing is that's different about us, is that we're doing it and we're making a living for ourselves. So I want to honor the work that has never stopped, that has been going on since there have been humans. Basically, there's been gift economics.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm a big David Graeber fan, so you preaching to the choir here on that one. The Dawn of Everything, highly recommended. Goes into a lot of this. My question for you, that it kind of a little bit different, stepping back a little bit more in the kind of practical or not the practical, but in the more material realm here. There are some other co-ops in Cleveland. Have you guys had any contact with other co-ops or with any co-op groups in your area? And were there any support organizations or anything like that that you guys made use of? Anybody?
Yeah, we've received a lot of support from Rust Belt Riders, which is a co-op that's been around for quite a while. And we've received an incredible amount of support from Cleveland Owns. And Cleveland Owns supports co-ops of different types. So they're encouraging like worker ownership, housing co-ops, energy co-ops, like energy democracy. And a lot of it is kind of like economic democracy programs. So whether it's like worker co-ops or consumer co-ops and things of that nature. And really, I think the community building that Jonathan Welly has been doing for many years before we launched helped it so that I can send one email. Oh, and Bogdan, like all of the work that he's been doing, and he's been doing a lot of mentoring for us and challenging us in various ways to have a good balance between mission and profit and things of that nature. But all the community building that they've been doing, like I mentioned, I went to one meeting and sent one email, but that was only valuable because Cleveland Owns had already built up a lot of community that those two things was able to send ripples out. Not to mention, Jonathan, Craig, other, and Bogdan, Prerna, people just telling people about us. And people outside, not in Cleveland Owns, but in the community that they've built, telling people about us. So
Nice. Yeah, that's good to hear. The ecosystem aspect is always very important, and that's a very direct way you can see like, oh, somebody else has maintained this mailing list, and now you've got a ready source of eyeballs to see your new business. Yeah, so I feel like we've neglected Dayle. He's sitting there so patiently. But Dayle or Wren, if there's anything that you'd like to add about the co-op, how you feel about it, anything you'd like people to to know or to understand about what you're doing or that you think is important, I'll just open the floor if you want to. If you got any messages to convey to other co-op-y people.
I guess, yeah, for me, just like Cristobal talked about it a little bit, but just focusing on the joy of giving the gift of clean water or whatever it is. Yeah, like just some like being able to like sharing stories of like, yeah, I went to like this person's house and like she had just gotten home from the hospital. She's on an oxygen tank. She's elderly, and she had a burst pipe that like burst onto her breaker box, so she didn't have electricity for her oxygen machine. And then also because there's no electricity, like the heater was down, and like getting it back on was like, the furnace was a whole thing. And just being able to make that difference in someone's life is so meaningful to me that like all my previous jobs before People's Plumbing is just like, okay, I go to my job, I do my thing, I get home, I make money, like I feel kind of dead inside. And after I go do a job with People's Plumbing, I feel more alive. And so follow what makes you feel more alive would be my advice to people. And yeah, that like with People's Plumbing, we're building the kind of world that I want to live in, and that feels really awesome. Dayle, you have anything?
I think just building on that is I agree with I get to come home and feel good about having helped somebody out with their quality of life, or even restored their quality of life to what it was before, because water is very, very, very tricky. You can very, very get like out of hand and cause like a bunch of damage. Yeah, so I'm glad to be able to like get the knowledge and then be able to share the knowledge with people. And I feel like that is in essence a part of community. So it feels good.
Nice. Well, I gotta thank you guys for your time. I hope that this maybe helps this model catch on. At least have some other people thinking about how maybe they can do their billing a little bit differently. And I will leave you all with this little saying from a friend of mine from Nepal. They have a saying in Nepal. It is Jaldan Mahadan, which means the gift of water is the greatest gift. So you guys are doing God's work out there, Goddess's work. So keep it up. Yeah. And again, thanks for your time and thanks for what you're doing, and being willing to talk to people about it.